Hey, Ron here from Military Images Magazine with a new episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail. Today I want to talk about the man pictured here, Yankee Ned. He really is one of the more colorful and also completely forgotten characters of the Civil War. His 1867 book, 7 Years of a Sailor's Life, are really an engaging firsthand account of life at sea during the Civil War period and before. He actually goes to sea at age 15 on a merchant ship before he joins the Navy. Now, I don't know that 7 years of a sailor's life quite hits the height of Sam Watkins in Company H or John Billings in Hardtack and Coffee, but still didn't quite have that same prose, but it's a pretty darn good book. And I would recommend it to you. You can find it easily on Google Books or archive.org. At any rate, I want to give you a flavor of the book and through that, an idea of how Yankee Ned viewed the war. He had an opportunity and took them to sort of pick up the color and the flavor of what was going on ships. And through that, you get a sense of what it was like to be at sea in the mid 19th century. So let me read this passage to you. Quote, "The top gallant forecastle was the favorite place to tell tales of love, wreck, and the joys and perils of a sailor's life. There, the narrator, squatted between the dead eyes of the forestay, held forth to his enraptured audience. One fine evening, the place was occupied by Mackintosh, a fine-looking old sailor, and as he sat whiffing his pipe, the men congregated about him, begging for a yarn. Mackintosh said, 'Well, lads, let me finish my smoke, and then I'll spin you a twister about my going off.' Having said this, the smoker closed his eyes and settled quietly back in the bend of the stay, his face calm and pleasant, and the blue cloud of tobacco smoke rising to the black cap ribbon over his left eye. The sprawled out crowd waited some few minutes, and as he made no motion, neither opened his eyes nor showed any signs of spinning his yarn, one of the men standing by tapped him on the shoulder with a 'Heave ahead, my hearty.' Still no motion. They took his hand. It was a dead man's hand. The spirit of the sailor had fled to a peaceful haven. Mackintosh had spun his last yarn and enjoyed the last pipe of tobacco in his life. The group were awed by this sudden touch of death. With solemn faces, the men carried the inanimate form aft to the arm chest, laid it there, and the surgeon, with his colleague, pronounced poor Mac dead from disease of the heart. The stars and stripes were folded over his cold breast, and the crew retired to their hammocks earlier than usual. The next morning, the bark was got underway, and when the land had sunk from view and the lead had struck 30 fathoms, the topsail was laid to the mast, and an ocean burial scene began. It was a solemn sight and sound. Sober faces, and deep-toned words marked the hour. We took a last look at our shipmate. The plank was tilted on the rail, the flag withdrawn, and as the words, 'We now commit this body to the deep,' were pronounced, the corpse, heavily weighted with solid shot and encased in canvas, passed over the vessel's side and disappeared in the bosom of the water, to be seen no more by mortal eyes." So there's Yankee Ned describing the last moments and burial of the old salty sailor Mackintosh. There's a lot more in this book. There's a lot more to Yankee Ned's life. In his book, at the end of his book, he offers an interesting epilogue. He talks about, before he gets there actually, he talks about his experiences in the war, including fighting in Ambrose Everett Burnside's 1862 North Carolina expedition. He survives all this. And in the book, he talks about it. He also, at the very end, says this quote, "As Yankee Ned the Sailor, I here close my logbook and bid farewell to the past. I have a new mission to fulfill, new life, New hopes inspire me. New joys are before me. Home, friends, peace, and duty, all hail. Well, Yankee Ned goes on to marry, and then he goes to work as a traveling salesman on land. I found no record that he ever went again to sea. He lived a long life, dying in 1914 on the eve of the First World War. So there you go, the story of Yankee Ned the Sailor. I recommend his book to you. Until the next episode, happy trails.